Hi, welcome to the Thousand Cranes Kitchen. Welcome back. I'm Chris Walinski, and let's see, what should we talk about today? I do have an agenda, but let's start with oxygen. Oxygen, why are we talking about that? So let's say I want to eat this apple, okay? And I cut it in half, I go in the other room, I eat the half of the apple, I come back in. What's the other half of the apple gonna look like? It turns brown, right? Same thing happens with avocados. You make guacamole, it starts to turn brown. Bananas turn brown. Even potatoes, right? You take your potatoes, you peel them up, and unless you soak them in water, and a lot of times we soak them in water to draw out the starch, but if there's a couple of those potato pieces that are sticking above the water, what happens to those? They turn brown or kind of a purple color. What's happening there is that they're getting attacked by oxygen, and it's a process called, naturally, oxidation. And oxidation is premature aging. So really what's happening is oxygen is hitting the apple, the exposed part of the apple, and causing it to age prematurely. But we also know that if we have a guacamole, how can we keep it from turning brown? And we can squeeze lime on it, we can squeeze lemon on it, right? But why does that affect the oxidative process? And we'll get into that, I think, in a couple of minutes here. Because what happens if you cut open a lemon and you leave it on the counter and you come back a half an hour later? It looks exactly the same, right? So normally, if you think back, if you had like chemistry or even just regular science in school, could even be in elementary school, we talked about atoms, right? And atoms, not to get into it too much, they have a nucleus, and then they have electrons that revolve around the nucleus. And these electrons like to pass together in pairs. So basically one's on one side and the other one's on the other side, and they revolve around the center of the nucleus. And depending on how many electrons each atom has, that actually determines what chemical this might be. So that's all you need to know about the atoms. And this can also happen with molecules, which are a couple of atoms, at least two atoms put together, and then you can get bigger and bigger molecules. But what happens if the atom or the molecule loses one of those electrons is now it gets kind of wonky. Instead of being nice and even, it's sort of this labored rotation, and the cell actually goes into a state of stress, and it's very reactive. And when an atom or a molecule loses an electron, that's called a free radical. Okay, so I've alluded to this in the past, where like what the heck is a free radical? That's what a free radical is. So what happens, it's a very reactive, very unstable situation, and those atoms now go on, or those free radicals go on to look for an electron to steal from somewhere else. So that's why they become destructive, because these free radicals, they go and take electrons from healthy cells, and usually they'll take them from the cell membrane. And the cell membrane to the cell is like our skin on our body. It protects the membrane, it protects the cell, it keeps certain things out, it keeps certain things in. It's like our skin. If we have a big laceration, stuff's going to get in there that we don't want, and stuff's going to get out, unfortunately, that we don't want it to get out either. So normally these free radicals will attach cells at their cell membrane, and these free radicals, for whatever reason, they really like to attack heart muscle, nerve cells, heart muscle cells, nerve cells, and immune system cells. And that's why free radical damage causes things like autoimmune diseases. It can cause cardiovascular disease, or it can be implicated in. It's not necessarily that's the only thing that causes cardiovascular disease, because we know that there are other factors involved there. But because it can affect even like nerve cells, that's how it can be implicated or assist in neurodegenerative diseases. So degenerative meaning getting worse and worse, nerve conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And when it gets to the point where there's a lot of free radicals attacking an area, the area or the cells can go into an oxidative stress. So where have we heard oxidative stress? The oxidation that we talked about earlier. Another area of oxidation, I just thought about this. If you go outside and you see something that's rusting, you see metal that's rusting, we think, oh, that's old. We go drive under a bridge, we see some rusted metal, it's an old bridge. But think about even if you buy, I don't know, brand new piece of rebar. I don't know, you've never bought rebar, but you buy something with iron in it, something that the metal has iron in it, it's a ferrous metal, it can start rusting, it can start oxidizing the first time it rains. And then this premature aging. So these free radicals can have this premature aging effect on our hearts. It can actually affect cataracts. It can facilitate rheumatoid arthritis. So there's a lot of bad things that happen. Now, where do these free radicals come from? The most common probably that we've all heard about is the sun's damaging free radicals, right? The UV radiation. And the UV radiation, I mean, there's so many complicated things, right? Because we want to be out in the sun to get the vitamin D, and it's healthy to be in the sun, but we don't want the free radicals from the UV radiation. What does that attack? That attacks our skin typically, and the free radical damage and the oxidative stress will cause wrinkles and age spots. But you know what? Some free radical damage will actually cause cancer, because it not only will affect the cell, but it can affect the DNA within the cell to start to work in a different way, in a really bad way, and then turn those cells into cancer cells. So this is a serious thing. Where does it come from? Some free radicals are actually made by our body, and they're made by our body to fight things like viruses. So they're kind of good free radicals. And why are they causing damage? They're causing damage because they're missing an electron, right? It's in a very unstable orbit. They want another electron to get back into being a nice stable situation. So they start to grab them from other cells. So the first way that we get the free radicals in our body is our body actually makes some. The second way is environmental. Free radicals come to us from everywhere. For instance, cigarette smoke, tobacco smoke, whether it's firsthand, secondhand, that has free radicals in it. When you have any kind of pollutant, solvents, if you smell paints and paint thinners, that has free radicals in it. Even when you're filling your car up with gas, the gas fumes have free radicals in them. Medications, and then again, the UV radiation. So now that I've completely freaked you out, you don't want to leave your house. How do we combat the free radical damage or potential free radical damage? Well, we talked a little bit at the beginning about putting lime juice and lemon juice on things in order to get them to not have oxidation, and that's what we're trying to fight. So, as it turns out, lemons and limes are citrus fruits. They have lots of vitamin C. So vitamin C is actually one of the antioxidants that we talk about. Vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, beta carotene, and then even when we get into some of the like selenium and zinc and manganese, there's a lot of antioxidants all around us in our food. So when we try to do, let's try to eat some foods high in antioxidants, they're abundant. There's a lot of them. It's not like you just have to eat potatoes or sweet potatoes, but sweet potatoes do have beta carotene, which is another antioxidant. So since I mentioned beta carotene is what turns fruits and vegetables kind of orange. So carrots have beta carotene. So as it turns out, carrots are pretty good for your eyesight, because remember I mentioned one of the side effects of free radical damage are cataracts. So it is true, if you eat enough carrots, you get enough beta carotene, that will help. I don't know that it will eliminate the possibility of cataracts, but So carrots and apricots, cantaloupe, peaches, trying to think of beets, squash, sweet potatoes, anything that's got kind of that darker color or orange, that's beta carotene. Vitamin E, nuts, almonds, and sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds, and oatmeal is a good one. Oatmeal is a really easy way to get a lot of vitamin E into your system, although there's been issues with oatmeal recently, so do with that information what you will. Peanuts and avocados too, vitamin E. And as we're talking about this, I know that there's people who is like, well, I take vitamin C, I take vitamin E, I take vitamin A, I take zinc, so all I need to add is a couple of carrots or something like that. What I will tell you is that it is a whole lot more effective to eat foods that contain these antioxidant properties in them versus just taking a supplement. And I'll tell you why. So for instance, for vitamin C, if a cup of cut strawberries, it's about 80 milligrams of vitamin C in there. But yet, it's not uncommon for someone to take a tablet with 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, right? Especially in the winter and you don't want to catch a cold, you take a lot of vitamin C. The thing is, the tablet vitamin C doesn't have some other things in it, meaning that when you take vitamin C, there's ascorbic acid, there's citric acid, and then there's polyphenols. So polyphenols are a group of substances that have huge antioxidant properties. And polyphenols probably by, you'll buy a product and it says now with the extra flavonoids or CoQ10 or quercetin or tannic acid. It has all of these kind of chemicals that they're, like buy this one because it's better than that one because it has CoQ10 in it, and people take CoQ10 as a supplement. But what I will tell you is that it's far more advantageous to take in as food versus as a supplement. Another example, vitamin E. Vitamin E exists actually in 8 different forms. Now what that means is that if you write down the formula for vitamin E, like C6 and H10 and O5, and it comes out to a specific formula. However, the longer those chains are, the more chance for variability, meaning some of the groups that are on one end could be switched with the groups on the other end. Maybe there's areas with double bonds which can be here or could be here or could it be there. So essentially it's the exact same number of atoms, however the structure is different. And so there's 4 different ways that it can be different. And then there's also something called stereoisomer, which essentially means it's a mirror image. So you've got 4 different states of vitamin E, you've got the mirror images, you've got 8 different ways that vitamin E can exist. And when you eat it in almonds and in oatmeal, you're getting all of that. However, most vitamin E supplements that you take only have 1, sometimes 2 different types of vitamin E in there. And what they've been finding is that unless you've got other supplements in there to help kind of work together, it doesn't work as well. So what I'm telling you is that don't stop taking vitamin C, don't stop taking vitamin E, but you're going to get far more kind of bang for your buck if you eat avocados and peanuts to get your vitamin E than just taking the supplement. So not all bad news. I do want to leave you with this, that there's also something called catechins. There's a lot of people who can't do without their coffee or their tea, at the morning or all through the day or, in the afternoon. And what I will tell you is that a couple of cups of coffee or even a pot of green tea, you've heard that green tea has antioxidants, so does black tea. They have antioxidants in them. And so obviously that's very good for your health. But what I will tell you also that has catechins is cocoa and wine. So if you have a small glass of wine with dinner, you'll be getting antioxidants there. Beer has antioxidants in it. The thing is, Dr. Walinski says that I know chocolate's good for me. The thing is, I don't want you to run out and get a bag of fun-sized candy bars and eat them all tonight. Milk chocolate typically is between 30 and 50% cocoa. and there's typically a lot of sugar in there. So don't start eating candy bars because Dr. Walinski told you that cocoa is good for you. You know those bars that say 65%, 75%, 90%? That's how much cocoa is in those dark chocolate bars. I would want you to try to stay at 80%, 85% or higher. I mean, I could say 90%, but I think if you're at least 80%, you're getting a lot of catechins, you're getting a lot of polyphenols in your chocolate. And just be careful because it's not so much be careful, but just be aware. Look at the back of the packaging and make sure that they're not putting in a lot of sugar, just because the higher percentage of cocoa, it starts to get a little, not a little, it gets pretty bitter. I actually found a bar of 100% no sugar chocolate, and it's got the same mouthfeel, but it doesn't taste like chocolate. So try to stay up there. 80-85% is probably good. Just a little bit of sugar. It's chocolate, it's dark chocolate, and it'll give you some enjoyment. Maybe even if you don't like to chew it, you can stick a little bit in your coffee in the morning and make it delicious. So those are some of the things that I wanted to cover today. There's so much more that I want to talk about next time. Foods that are good for prostate and foods that are bad for prostate, things that you never want to have. You know what, actually I want to add this right now too. The other good thing about, the other thing that you should probably try to do is your body loves to have these antioxidants in them, right? Because it's going to help to stave off the damage that could potentially be caused by these free radicals. The thing is, you don't want to have the same foods day after day after day. You want to mix it up. And you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a list on my website of the different types of antioxidants and the different foods that are in them, and understand that some foods fall into a couple of different groups, right? So like green leafy vegetables, Tuscan kale, for example, that has beta carotene in it, but it's also got vitamin C. And so that way you'll get an idea of what different types of foods you can eat. But my point is that, don't, the worst thing you could have in the morning is a bowl of sweetened flakes in a bowl of milk. Even if you cut up some bananas or strawberries in it, please stop doing that. One day have some oatmeal, get your vitamin E in there, throw some raw walnuts, maybe throw some sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, some fresh fruit, maybe some little bit of honey. That's a very nutritious breakfast that's just loaded with antioxidants. The next day, have some Greek yogurt, whole milk. I'll talk about that in another time, but have some whole milk Greek yogurt, bunch of fruit, bunch of nuts, bunch of seeds, peanuts in there, whatever you want to put in there. That's raisins. That's delicious. That's another really good way to have your antioxidants every morning. So mix it up, because your body wants to have these polyphenols from all different types of foods, and not just the same thing over and over again. So as I watch this later on, I'll probably find about the 10 things that I wanted to talk about that I didn't. So we'll add that to a future episode. But if you're still watching, I really appreciate your attention. Wishing you a lovely day, and if you can think about it, please try to be a blessing in someone's life. Thank you. Bye-bye.